Today is Friday, February 19th, 2021, which means it's Derelict Friday. Hello, fiendlings, how the hell are you? Well, I got snow. I got more snow than I've ever seen in Texas in my lifetime. Along with that, 8-degree temperatures and broken water pipes. I, however, was fortunate. My folks and my sister spent over 30 hours each without power. At last report, my sister still had low water pressure, it's a citywide thing, and was under a boil water order, also a citywide thing. My folks, like me, aren't under those restrictions yet, but it's still possible. I have several friends that had to leave their domiciles due to the fact they were literally freezing to death, and others who now have to deal with catastrophic water damage from broken pipes. Basically, it's been a fucking rough week for pretty much everyone in the state. Because of where I am on the grid, I never lost power or even suffered a flicker of a brownout. I think I'm in the vast minority. Regardless, the disaster is in our rear view while the cleanup is going to be ongoing for months. In many ways, this was worse than a hurricane, and the first reason I can give you is this. A hurricane goes away. You can go outside after a hurricane passes through. In this shit, you just freeze to death because the precipitation didn't stop, and neither did the cold. Sorry, had to get that out of my system. Did I mention it's been a rough week? One thing I have had to deal with is spotty internet since before the storm. It's been pretty much unusable since last Saturday, and that certainly made things boring. I couldn't work on code, I couldn't access my developer materials, and I couldn't upload videos or podcasts. What I did do, however, was right. I'm so close to having Trident shipyards finished that I can taste it. The combined book is so far running about 140,000 words, but I still have to add a few more scenes in the epilogue to tie things up. But I'm so damn close. I even shed a tear when I offed a character. I won't tell you which one, you'll just have to wait and find out. One more thing. You might have noticed an episode 6.5 pop up in your feed, or if you're on YouTube, episode 101.5. Dummy me forgot to include Chapter 10, which should have actually been Episode 7, so sorry about that. Chapter 10 describes what Callie's squad found in the cockpit of Red. Might clear up a few continuity problems that a lack of Chapter 10 caused. Again, my apologies. With that, I'm going to sign off and try and finish this goddamned book. Be safe, have a great week, and we'll talk again real soon. Here's Episode 12 of Derelict. Trident. Chapter 18. When he entered the cargo bay, Talby wasn't surprised to see Mira and her squads, suited and ready. It was precisely what he'd expected. The fact they had their rifles maglocked to their backs, pouches filled with all the remaining magazines of the Trident flechettes, meant Mira had their shit squared away. Good. "Officer on deck!" Mira shouted. The infantry stood at attention. "At ease," Talby said. He readjusted his helmet in the crook of his arm and headed to the rifle racks. His rifle waited for him, locked and loaded. He imagined Copenhagen had done that. The private was either bucking for a promotion or really good at her job. Either way, she was the first good co-pilot he'd had in years. After grabbing his rifle and walking to the SV-52, he locked eyes with the corporal. "You brief your Marines?" "Aye, sir," she said. "Winton Murdoch will hitch a ride with you. The rest of us are hoofing it." Talby grinned. "Luckily, it's not a far walk." "No, sir," she said. "Inventory should be in your block." It was. He ran through the checklist. Mira had spread the remaining Trident flechette rounds to her squads, but there weren't enough left for every Marine to carry a full magazine of the experimental rounds. The other mags they carried had the standard flechette rounds used for close quarters in ZG combat. "Thank you, Corporal," Talby said. He looked over the Marines. Dickerson looked like he needed more sleep. Then again, most humans looked like that when they came out of stasis. Void, he'd been awake for several hours and still felt as though he needed a nap. "Welcome back, Dickerson." "Thank you, sir," the big Marine drawled. Talby cleared his throat. "On our way to Pluto, S&R Black passed 2 Kuiper Belt objects heading for Neptune space. On our way to Pluto, S&R Black passed 2 Kuiper Belt objects heading for Neptune space. We think there were 2 groups of creatures, the ones that killed Red." He let that last sentence fade in an uneasy silence before continuing. That said, we need to assume the worst. If you see any sign of exosolar life forms, don't ask questions, don't freeze up. Point, shoot. Any questions? No, sir! The Marines yelled. Talby glanced at Calimora. Shall we? Aye, sir. Calimora turned to face her squads. Saddle up. Let's get this done so we can see what we can see. The egress went by the numbers. As soon as they were ready, the cargo bay opened and Dickerson found himself staring into space with Neptune's eerie blue glow vibrating in the opening half's corner. He exhaled in a long stream and fought the vertigo threatening to overtake him. The last thing you want to do while wearing a combat suit is to puke in your helmet. An acidic burp burst from his mouth, the sour tang of vomit overwhelming his taste buds. Get your shit together, he said aloud. Carb, his squad mate, attached her tether to the mooring point just outside the cargo bay and pulled herself out into space. He took another deep breath and did the same, his eyes lingering over the cargo bay for one last time. The SV-52 floated less than half a meter above the deck, the bow canted like an animal ready to pounce. Wint and Murdoch clung to the sides of the small craft, their gloves and boots maglocked to its surface. Dickerson couldn't help but smile at the way Wint's large body made the SV-52 look as though it was some sort of alien creature. The grin died on Dickerson's face. That wasn't funny after all. Fighting another wave of fear, Dickerson turned and faced space again. Instead of looking into all that darkness and the shadows that threatened to swallow him whole, he swung until he faced Trident Station. The sight of dark gray Atmos steel, pitted and dented from more than 70 years of micrometeorite collisions and the occasional bumpy landing, settled him at once. There was home, just 30 meters away. Harb walked on ahead, her mag rifle in her hands instead of slung on her back. Dickerson's brain stopped burning with relief, and he gripped his weapon, his knees bending into a ZG combat crouch walk. He was moving. He had purpose. Dickerson kept his mind on his feet, eyes on his squad mate, and ready for something to come at him.
On your six, Dickerson,
Talby said.
You're covered.
Copy, sir, he said.
Carb,
Kelly said.
Wait for your squad mate.
The normally calm Carr breathed heavily into the mic.
Copy, boss.
Shit, was the whole goddamn company spooked? He switched to the squad channel. Get your shit together, Carb. You too, Corporal.
My shit is together,
Kelly Morris said.
Dickerson, I have your six. Lieutenant, you're clear. Copy, Corporal.
Talby said.
Moving inbound. Squad, hold it midships,
Kelly Morris said. He switched his cam feeds to those of Black's and reduced each to a corner of the HUD. Eyes darting between the different feeds and looking for movement, he waited for something to happen. Talby brought the SV-52 in close to the manual controls, just outside the cargo bay door. It was a short 15-meter leap for Murdoch, with Wint providing cover. The angle allowed him to easily cover the hatch in case hostiles decided to make an appearance. Murdoch? The private's reply rushed out in a shaking stream.
Ready, sir.
Go, Talby said. A moment later, Murdoch switched the polarity of his boots using near full power. He'd used far too much. The private flew through the emptiness between the SV-52 and Trident Station's massive hull. Nearly as soon as his body catapulted away from the SV-52, the suit's forward jets spewed tiny puffs of gas, slowing the leap's suicidal speed. Murdoch hit Trident Station's hull. The private panicked. Instead of maneuvering to regain control and try again, he turned his magnetic field up to full power again, and instead of bouncing clear of the hull, his body moved a meter before sticking fast to the hull with another impact. Talby opened his mouth to yell, but Wint beat him to it.
Private, are you okay?
Wint said.
I'll be sore. Didn't fucking ask you that, Private.
Wint growled. Murdoch went silent for a second. When he finally spoke, he no longer sounded like a frightened, hurt little brat.
Aye, Lance Corporal, I am functional. Good,
Wint said.
Stop being a dumbass. Get to it. Aye, Lance Corporal.
Talby grinned. Gunny would be so proud. Murdoch awkwardly used his mag gloves to pull himself into position beside the manual hangar controls. Talby switched to the Marine's cam feed and watched as if through Murdoch's eyes. The private's left hand pulled back the 2 safety rings until the manual power generator appeared. After a few pumps, the status lights flashed from red to green, and a new indicator appeared.
Clear to open,
Murdoch said.
Copy, clear,
Calimora said.
Sir, are you in position?
Aye, and holding, Talby said.
All fire teams? Clear,
Went Dickerson and Carb said. Calimora paused for a moment. Talby wondered if she was checking the rest of the manual streams or maybe communicating with Black.
Murdoch, you're a go. On 3.
Murdoch said. Talby could practically hear the man sweating. He counted off, his voice descending from near panic to a cool, clear sound.
Now.
Murdoch stabbed the emergency open button and immediately slapped his hands and feet against the hull. The mag gloves and boots locked him in place against the Atmos steel. Debris rushed away into space, the force of the remaining atmosphere rushing into the darkness, whisking away trash, unsecured tools, and both mechanical and human detritus into forever. Copenhaver, he said, keep track of where all that is headed.
Aye, sir,
She said from the gunner's seat.
Plotted its course.
Excellent, Talby said. With Calimura's squad spread out over the fuselage and Wentz off to the side, the infantry effectively had a full view of the hangar's interior, including all 3 walls. No surprises, no blind spots, nothing that could jump them. Until, of course, they reached the back of the hangar. That's where the shadows and the interconnecting corridors met. All that would stand between them and whatever awaited them inside Trident would be a half-meter thick pressure door. He suddenly wished it was more like a meter thick, maybe 2.
Port side clear.
Calimora called out.
Sit rep. Belly clear.
Dickerson said.
Starboard clear.
Wentz said. Clear, Talby said. Corporal, you have the ball.
Aye, sir.
Calimora paused for a few seconds before speaking.
Fire Team Alpha, you're clear to rendezvous at the bow. From there, I want the area cleared. Aye, boss.
Carb said.
Went, you and Murdoch provide cover. Aye, boss.
Wentz said. Talby switched to Calimora's cam feed and watched as she took a position atop the midships. She'd have a line of fire above the infantry, able to see any threats before they could jump them, as well as provide cover fire to deal with any hostiles hiding near the ceiling. He nodded with approval. He hoped Black saved all the footage. Gunny would love it.
At the bow, boss.
Dickerson said.
Fire Team Beta, you ready? Aye, boss.
Winton Murdoch said.
Go, Alpha. Alpha, enter in hangar bay.
Dickerson said.
Copy.
Calimora said. Talby switched to Dickerson's feed, prepared to see corpses, frozen blood, and exosolar creatures. But there was nothing. The well-lit hangar bay had its usual assortment of parked and secured grav lifts, walls of tools also secured, and 3 large 3D printers that, assuming you had the materials, could print several SV-52s, skiffs, and spare ship components to boot. From Dickerson's cam, he could even make out the dings, dents, and discolored patches of metal on the printer's side. There should have been at least 3 SFN personnel, the maintenance crew, to shepherd the ship in and perform any emergency repairs. Instead, no suits, no people, and no signs of life. Dickerson floated through the hangar bay, Carb on his 6. The pair glided slowly through the emptiness, S&R Black's powerful floodlights spraying down upon their suits. He was sure Black was already analyzing every frame the fire team's cameras captured. If she found something not readily apparent, she'd sing out. He hoped. "Making our way to the observation deck," Dickerson said.
Copy.
Calimora said. He switched to the fire team channel and slowed his roll until he was nearly parallel with the bulkheads. Carb had done the same, but she had rolled in the opposite direction, her feet just behind his own. Standard fire team formation when entering a large ZG, potentially hostile environment. In theory, they each had a hemisphere of responsibility, but Dickerson had rarely seen it work. If you were expert at your suit jets, you could flip in any direction to give you both better aim and the ability to move. Unfortunately, most SFMC infantry didn't spend enough time in their suits, let alone in microgravity. Carb, however, was an expert. So was he. Hell, so were all the lance corporals, not to mention Calimora, who'd apparently clocked more suit time than all the non-rates combined. She'd shown off those skills in the bowels of Mira. The hangar bay had looked too empty, but all the equipment seemed to be in place. Seemed to be. Shit, he said.
What?
Carb asked. I knew something didn't look right. Carb hissed through the mic.
What?
There are no flats, no supplies, no crates. It's like this place has never been used or someone cleared it out.
You're right,
Carb said a moment later.
What the void is going on?
When 10 meters separated them from the observation deck, he fired his suit thrusters and slowed his approach. Carb continued covering his 6, but she rolled again so she faced S&R Black, floating just beyond the hangar bay door. The Atmos steel railing glinted beneath his helmet lights, and he hit the thrusters once more. He grabbed the railing and swung himself onto the deck. Before he could bounce, he activated his mag boots and brought himself to an awkward stand.
Klutz!
Carb said and landed to his side. Misjudged it, Dickerson said. Clear left.
Clear right,
Carb said. The observation deck curled in a slight semicircle, each side ending in a pressure hatch. They were both closed and sealed. An emergency light flashed in the corner. Dickerson switched back to the squad comms. Corporal, power's off and the emergency LEDs are rolling.
Copy,
Kellymore said.
Any infrared?
Before he could even switch on his filter, Carb's voice filled the mic.
No heat sigs, boss. Nothing making enough heat to show up. Hold position,
Kellymore said. Copy. Dickerson turned to look out at the hangar. Empty. A ship's hangar nearly always had a certain used look to it. SFM personnel were damn near religious about having a ship repaired and through a diagnostics check as quickly as possible, especially at Trident. By the time an S&R took off for patrol, the maintenance crews were already stocking away the parts they knew they'd need for the next run. Who wanted to spend 3 days printing new components with an angry colonel breathing down their necks because one of his meager fleet of 3 wasn't ready for action at a moment's notice?
So,
Carb said.
How long before Colonel Hayes appears and court-martials all of us?
At this point, Dickerson said, I'd be happy if that happened. Carb said nothing for a moment.
What are we going to do if we can't get the station power back up?
Don't know, Dickerson said. I guess we keep turning the emergency generators over and over again until someone comes to check on us. Carb harumphed.
Those assholes wouldn't get here for 6 weeks, and that's if they left this second and actually wanted to get here.
True, Dickerson said. He didn't want to have this conversation. Not now. S&R Red was still here when we left.
Right?
Carb said.
So?
Guess the easiest thing to do would be to go to the next hangar bay and see if it looks as bare. Carb grunted.
I'm more interested in finding out why both Red and Blue Company hangars were partially open. That's not right.
No, it ain't, Dickerson said. Makes me wonder if both ships left the barn to go somewhere in a hurry. We have a pretty good idea of why Red was out there. But Blue?
That doesn't exactly give me a warm and fuzzy,
Carb said.
Blue was due back while we were on our mission. So is she in her hangar bay?
Don't know, Dickerson said. He cast a glance at the pressure hatch. But I guess we'll find out soon enough. Dunn cycled through the cam feeds looking for anything out of the ordinary. Dickerson and Carbonaro's cam feeds held little of interest and provided no answers. Well, maybe one. They now knew there was no one waiting for them.
Captain,
Black said. Yes, Black.
I have analyzed the cam feeds.
The AI said.
Apart from the fact the hangar bay is empty, there are no other anomalies.
Empty?
Yes, Captain. Supplies are usually stocked for a ship's return.
Right, Dunn agreed. He replayed the cam feeds from Dickerson and Carbonaro. No one waiting for us and nothing left in the hangar bay.
Correct,
Black said. Any other anomalies?
No, Captain.
Black said.
The hangar bay appears secure. Fireteam Alpha's assessment is correct. There are no extraneous heat sources beyond the hangar bay.
No power usage?
No, Captain.
She said.
This part of Trident Station has gone completely dark.
Yeah, completely dark, he said to himself. Trident Station, composed of better than 500 individual modules, including those that made up the habitat rings, had enough room to comfortably house tens of thousands of SFN, SFMC, and civilian personnel. It was meant to be the launching point for exosolar expeditions, as well as an outpost for search and rescue crews to patrol the shipping lanes. Even with the majority of the station unused, every module had had power when they left. Now, no electronic transmissions?
No, Captain,
Black said.
I find no sources in the immediate area.
He switched to a block channel and connected to Talby. All right, XO, what do you think? Alpha scouted the hangar. No signs of threats or evidence anything bad went down. I think we land and take it from there. Dunn knew Talby couldn't see him, but that didn't keep him from nodding in agreement. I thought you'd say that, he said over the block. Tell Kelly Moore we're coming in. Aye, sir, Talby said. The captain terminated the block connection. Oaks, he said to the pilot, wait until you get the all clear from Talby and then let's land in the hangar. Aye, sir, Oaks said. Dickerson watched S&R Black slowly maneuver into the hangar bay. Without the hangar's active magnetic field, Oaks had to manually control both the craft's descent to the deck as well as its forward momentum. He didn't envy the pilot. In all his years in SFMC, he'd never seen a manual entry into a hangar bay. He knew the pilots trained for it, but it didn't often happen. Without the hangar bay's grab plates, AI assistants, and a deck crew, bringing her in was going to be tricky. Fortunately, Oaks was a damn good pilot. S&R Black drifted into the hangar, her running lights bright and slowly flashing in reds and blues. The ship's spotlights illuminated the deck as though it were in sunlight. Old stains, metal fatigue, and a few dents and dings became visible beneath the photon assault.
Glad he's doing that and not me,
Carb said. Copy that, Dickerson said. The ship cleared the edge of the hangar, floated for another 5 meters, and came to a slow halt. A few puffs from the topside thrusters, and S&R Black descended to the hangar deck. The landing gear took the shock of the impact, but Dickerson doubted the Marines inside even noticed they were down. Oaks was just that good.
On the deck,
Oaks said over the comms.
Dickerson, Carb.
Kelly Morris said over the squad channel.
Keep your posts. Aye, boss.
Carb said.
So now what?
Dickerson grinned beneath his visor. I guess we wait and find out.